What's going on, guys? So, as you know, we are preparing for our Atlantic crossing. We now have a theoretical departure date, which is May 25th. Now, that's totally weather dependent, and if we don't have good weather on the 25th, then obviously we'll wait until there's good weather. But what that means is that we've got 6 weeks to make sure that we are ready to cross the Atlantic Ocean. Now, we've put together a to-do list based on priorities, and the goal here in the next 6 weeks is to cross off everything in our high priority category. That's basically things that if we don't get those done, then we don't leave for this Atlantic crossing. So this week, we're hoping to cross off of our list installing our new rod kicker. We've got to deal with some issues involving our autopilot. It does not look pretty. We're hoping to install our new Carolina cradle, and I'm sure a bunch of random stuff is gonna pop up in between. Hope that doesn't break.
I'm Desiree, and this is my husband, Jordan. We're sailing around the world, or at least trying to. We made it as far as Panama on our first boat, Atticus 1, which was a really small fixer-upper. Now we're on our dream sailboat, Atticus 2, but she needs some work before she's ready to cross oceans.
So we're working hard to finish up the last of our boat projects so we can set sail on our biggest adventure yet, crossing the Atlantic Ocean.
All right, so my first project this week is going to be installing this Selden rod kicker. It is what is going to make sure that the boom stays angled up high enough so that it never hits and destroys our brand new bimini structure. But before I can install it, it's a little bit too long, and so I have to shorten it so that it'll fit the existing attachment points on the boom and mast. Hold it there, right there. Well, I couldn't have just finished that project, could I? I know, Osa, I know. Basically, what's going on is this is just too big. It extends out too much, so it contacts the jaws in a way that it just won't work. So I need to modify this. Also, the tackle that I need to attach, it needs to attach right here, and this whole thing is like really, really thick and big. This shackle right here isn't gonna fit over it. Okay, so I was able to actually find a shackle that was just big enough to connect this tackle to the rod kicker, and my modification to this aluminum piece down here worked perfect. So this is able to articulate freely without getting caught up on it. So I might actually install this thing today. All right, so the rod kicker's on, and as you can tell, Oso has learned how to let us know when it's time to take him for a walk. So today's project is going to involve the Autopilot, which is down here under this compartment. And every time I go down in here, I take a look at the metal bracket that holds the Autopilot ram and basically transfers all the force that it creates to the boat itself. And I've noticed that that bracket has a lot of corrosion, and in fact it's got some cracks in a couple areas along some of the weld. That's not good. If we're gonna be crossing the Atlantic, I really want that bracket to look perfect so we don't need to worry about that failing while we're out offshore. So I'm going to remove everything in this compartment, take the Autopilot ram off of that bracket, and then pull that bracket out and take it over to Pacific Seacraft to see if I can have them weld up a new piece. There you go. So there's the bracket, and yeah, you can definitely see like significant cracking along the edges of the entire weld. Tons of corrosion. It does not look pretty. So time to take this off to Pacific Seacraft and see if they can't weld us up something new.
So I am getting super stoked about our Atlantic crossing, but there's a lot of work I need to do in this planning stage to make sure that we've got all the provisions and food that we need, and we might even be bringing on crew. So I've got to make sure that I've got all of our bases covered to keep a happy, healthy crew. As far as fresh fruits and veggies, they are a total luxury on long passages because there's only so much room I have in the fridge to store them. And to be honest, I'm not that great while cooking underway because I get seasick really easily. So unfortunately, a lot of the time, long passages for us can mean goodbye delicious healthy food and hello cup of noodle. So for our Atlantic crossing, I'm making sure that we're all stocked up on AG1 by Athletic Greens to help us at least try to stay healthy while we're out there. AG1 has a bunch of super healthy ingredients that help our body's nutritional needs and support gut health, immunity, energy, and focus. Plus, when we're offshore, we've got a super demanding watch schedule of 4 hours on and 4 hours off.
Go sleep, Betty.
Okay. So it'll be great to have AG1 on board to give us energy and to keep us mentally sharp. Plus, it tastes pretty good. So if you want to give AG1 a try, head on over to athleticgreens.com/Atticus, where you'll get a super great deal of a year's supply of vitamins D3 and K2, plus 5 travel packs for free with your first purchase.
So today I'm going to be finishing up all of the electrical installations that we've been doing. So there's no more electrical projects that we've got on the list before we do the Atlantic crossing. And so I've got a whole mess of wires all over the place. I'm gonna go through all of this wiring conduit that we've been messing with and just secure all of it using zip ties, installing little anchor points for those zip ties, and just tidying up the wires generally so that all of that is 100% put to bed and good to go. Boy, it is a windy day. It's pretty intense. I spent a little bit of time doubling up on our lines and just double checking the really important lines. And we're holding well, but if you look at the end of the dock, you can see like the end of the dock kind of like get tugged toward the boat every time like the boat pulls. Like I've been just staring at that for the last 5 minutes being like, hope that doesn't break. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on everything and trying not to get seasick.
All right, so what do we got here?
You got a Carolina cradle with your name on it.
All right, I'm so excited.
You excited to take a sail cover off for the last time?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but like every time you get to an anchorage and you have to like put the sail cover on and you are so exhausted and you just want to like have a sundowner and relax, like it's gonna be really nice to take that step out of the process.
Yeah.
Goodbye, sail cover.
Sweet. So yeah, if you guys are looking for an awesome mainsail cradle, then head on over to AllisonSailsAndCanvas.com and check out all the awesome products that Rodney can hook you up with. This has been like seriously a dream of mine for years, you know, having a really good cradle. So after we installed the solar panels last week, we've actually not connected to shore power since then, just to kind of test the whole system to see if the solar panels could keep up with all of our electrical demands on the boat. And long story short, they are, big time. We've been using all of the electrical components, all of our computers and laptops and chargers and speakers, everything that we would normally use, and every day the batteries get fully topped up like they are right now. And I should add to that we have not been budgeting our electrical usage whatsoever. I mean, we'll both be on our computers all day. We'll watch TV for like a couple hours in the evening or on the weekends, maybe more than that. Desiree, hello. Netflix, the refrigerator, the freezer, like all that stuff is running constantly without us really trying to minimize our electrical usage, and the solar panels are totally keeping up with it. As for the size of the solar panels that we've got, we have two LG 395 watt solar panels, so a total of 790 watts. They're up away from everything so that they won't typically be shaded on a regular basis. If we were to put something on the Bimini, for instance, the boom would every now and then shade those solar panels and really affect their output. Another thing that we did with this system is we have one charge controller per solar panel, which is something that you definitely don't need to do. You can have one charge controller for both panels, but the nice thing about having one charge controller per panel is the redundancy. So if we have one charge controller fail, we still have another panel still pumping electricity into the batteries. And also, if one panel gets some shade on it, if they both connected to the same charge controller, the shade on one panel would actually affect the output of the other panel. Long story short, what we've got right now is working perfectly fine. It should basically keep us electrically sustainable going into the future, living off the grid. So mission accomplished. So today I'm going to be tackling a project down here in the Lazarette area where we removed the Autopilot from. After kind of snooping around a bit, I discovered that the old Autopilot bracket had been installed so that it was pushing up against one of the Scupper hoses in here. And a Scupper is basically a drain that allows water to like pass from the deck down into the ocean. And so over time, the hose actually chafed on that bracket until there was a small hole, and I think some salt water had actually leaked out and was just resting on that flat aluminum bracket, really accelerating the amount of corrosion that occurred. Now with the new bracket, we're designing it to make sure that it's well away from any Scupper hoses, but there's still a hole in the existing Scupper hose. Not to mention that actually all of the Scupper hoses on the boat are really old and brittle, they're starting to crack, so I'm going to just replace all of the Scupper hoses on the boat. Oh man, already drew first blood. That's impressive. Gosh, I've only been at this for like 5 minutes. The hardest part about removing an old hose is getting the part that's been squeezed on really tight by these hose clamps onto the actual fittings themselves, because it's almost like it melds onto those fittings. So this is the exhaust hose that I'm gonna be using to replace the Scupper hoses. And this stuff is absurdly expensive. I almost think it might be worth its weight in gold. That's probably not true, but you know, hopefully it'll last a long time. Also, I wanted to show you the chafe that Autopilot bracket caused right here on the hose. Oh, and one other thing, I'm replacing the old hose clamps. They're just your standard hose clamps with the perforations and the like straight sharp edges. And I'm going to these ABA 316 stainless hose clamps without the perforations and with the flared edges so it doesn't cut into the hose. Okay, so had to move all this stuff because this Scupper hose goes through the bulkhead and back here in this other cockpit locker. So go in there and remove the other part of it. All right, you can see that this is a really good example of a hose that has a whole lot of cracks going on, as well as a couple cracks that I think were leaking water a little bit, because you can see like rust stains kind of dripping out from those cracks. So this is something that I've been meaning to do for a while. That Autopilot bracket chafing into that one hose was just, you know, what pushed me over the edge to do it right now. All right, you ready, bud?
Yeah.
Nice, yeah, you're doing good. Keep doing that. Keep going. Dang it, man. I've learned the hard way that when I cut myself on a boat, particularly like in the gross crevices of a boat, that it's important to try to like disinfect the cut and cover it, because I've definitely gotten a lot of weird infections working on boats. Actually, I say that, and really I just do it because I know Desiree will get mad if I don't. Okay, so this is the last Scupper hose that I've got to replace here, and it's gonna be the toughest, I think, because the top of it is in here in the cabinet in the bathroom. It goes through a shelf, and then where the seacock is down below here, I can like barely get to it with one hand. I definitely can't get to it with both hands. But although it's the worst one, it's also the one that needs to be replaced the most, because you can see there's a giant crack right here at the very top. And in fact, if I turn this light off, you can actually see daylight shining through it. So this has been leaking for a little bit. Man, yeah, I am just tearing up my knuckles today, man. You know, I guess maybe if I was smart, I'd put gloves on. Okay, well, hopefully this will work, because I'm starting to run low on Band-Aids. Wow. Well, and there you go. Turns out gloves help you grip things too. Really learning a lot with this project. Well, I'm doing this blind once again. Just doing it by feel. Luckily, I can get one hand on it, but this is not gonna be easy. I just can't get the leverage on it, and just can't get like the hose clamp removal tool, for instance, in the right place. Get off of there. Oh my God, I'm doing it. Oh. Yes, let's get the new one in. Ow. Okay, so go ahead and get into your spot. Keep going. So this week went pretty darn well. We were able to cross off 2 projects on the list, installing the rod kicker and installing the new Carolina cradle. And we started the process on rebuilding that Autopilot bracket. But we really got to keep up this momentum for the next couple weeks if we're hoping to get all of this done before the Atlantic crossing. But come May 25th, I mean, that's gonna be it. We're gonna be sailing off into the middle of an ocean and starting a huge adventure. And taking a boat that we've been refitting ourselves out into the middle of an ocean like that on a huge, kind of potentially dangerous journey can be kind of scary. But what's really neat about the situation right now that I hadn't really anticipated is that the general kind of fear and anxiety that I've felt for a while about this trip is slowly evolving into confidence. All of that preparation that we're doing is leading me to feel better and better and better about this huge challenge that we're about to take on. And it's an awesome feeling. I never really got there with Atticus 1. There was always some kind of really important project or thing that was wrong with the boat that I needed to do, but we had to move and we had to go somewhere, and so it kind of hung over my head, and the whole time I was just hoping that something big wouldn't fail. With this boat, I'm finally starting to get to that point where I feel like we're on top of all of those giant projects. And even a brief glance at our to-do list shows that we're not there yet, but we're getting there. And I'm starting to feel really, really excited about taking on this huge challenge. So we'll see you guys next week when we tackle the next couple of items.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this week's episode. I wanted to thank a couple of our brand new patrons. So a huge thank you to our newest super bud, Rusty Comer. Rusty, you've been with us for a really long time through the highs and lows of Atticus 1 and now Atticus 2, and we just wanted to say thank you so much. And to one of our very special Yachtmaster level patrons, Thayer Bigelow, he just became a super bud, which means he's been with us for a really long time, and we really wouldn't be here without you, so thank you so much there. Moving on to our newest deckhand level patrons, welcome aboard and thank you so much, Jay and Karen Scribner, Bill Falcaro, Ray, Owen H, hope I said that right, Rachel Nixon, Mark and Sylvia Koitma, Jeff Carlton, Jean Klink, Brian Lundy, Kula Wood, Marlene Stuckey, Sue A. Rutherford, Michael Barnes, Yvonne Chamard, and Dustin and Katie Wilbur. So welcome aboard to our newest patrons, and thank you so much again to our Superbud patrons. All of our patrons make these videos 100% possible, and we are so grateful for your support. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and we will see you next week.